welcome to yet another episode of the show Her Moments, and I'm your host today, Asha Kunsum. Now, I can't forget to tell everyone watching us that Happy New Year. Thank you very much for walking with us throughout the journey of 2018. Now it's 2019. To re-event is our brand as Rico TV. Yes, last year we had a couple of topics and we had very many guests on the show who inspired, motivated, and maybe educated us one thing or the other. Yes, the show Her Moment, those of you who've just caught us in, this is a show I will bring to different women who inspire, educate, motivate, encourage, and maybe teach us something through their life journeys, through their life experiences, or what they are going through in life. With me in studio is a beautiful, awesome lady. She is a senior communicator of NARO. NARO is National Agriculture Research Organization. Now, she is the senior communicator of NARO Uganda. Let's meet our guest. Well, the topic of discussion today is women entrepreneurship, and with me in studio is a woman who dares to follow her dreams, and her story is quite a successful one. Welcome to the show, Mary.
Thank you so much.
How is the evening?
The evening is okay. There is a lot that is going on in the country, and we believe that 2019 is going to be a year that is going to really be so good.
In God's name, and you are a believer.
Yes, I'm a believer, and I know that God has very good plans for us in this year. So I'm just waiting to see what God is offering this year.
Amen. Who is Mary? Who is Mary?
So, Mary Nampera Kayabula.
Yes.
That's my name. I'm a senior communication officer working with NARO, the National Agriculture Research Organization.
Yeah.
I'm a mother. I'm married to Mr. Tony Kayabula, and I'm a born-again Christian, and I fellowship from Caris Word Ministries based in Mukono, and I am a farmer, I can say. I am also a farmer.
Of course, when you talk about NARO, you must be a farmer, I believe.
Yes, I'm a farmer, though still on small scale. And I think I'm also a leader in different spheres, because I'm a secretary in Mukono on the Football Association. Mukono District Football Association. That means I love sports.
Does that mean you play football?
Not really, but I love it with passion. I'm a football fan, and so I was made a secretary to the district association. Yes, but personally I don't play football. Yes, but I really love to support it.
What is your football team? What team do you support?
Internationally, I support Manchester United, but locally, I'm a fan of Express and Vipers.
Okay.
Yes, but then I'm also in charge of NARO Football Club, which is our organization team that we really focus on to ensure that we support the youths out there, instead of dealing so many other activities that may not be so good. So we are supporting that football team as an organization, yeah.
Okay, now let's start your life journey. What schools did you go to? Where do you come from? Whose daughter is Mary? Exactly.
Okay, thank you. I'm a daughter to Mr. Paul Sechewa, who is an auditor by profession, but at the same time he's an aquaculture farmer, big time, based in Masaka. I'm a born of Masaka district. I come from a family which I can say is really big, but I love that family which is big. I'm a second born in that family. And
how big? Like extended, like 30 children?
No, we are about 18.
Wow,
that is quite big. And I'm a second born in that family.
Okay.
I really love that family. Yeah, my father has really inspired me to be so much of a hardworking person, and I have grown up to seeing him working so hard to ensure that we also become successful citizens of our country. Yes, that's what I can say about that.
From which village, which town?
I come from
Probably you could be my neighbor or my village mate.
Okay, my village is Masaka town itself. It's Mutuba Gardens, Masaka, around Brevard there, and it's such a nice place. That's where I was born, and yeah, I think that's I had my childhood memories around that place. But I studied from Rakai district, a school called St. Simon Nazareth. That's where I had my primary, and the earlier period of my primary level, I was in Bwanda St. Teresa.
Yeah.
That's a non-school. It really modeled me so much religiously. So my religious background is from there. But then I went to St. Simon Primary School, Nazareth, where I finished my P7 and joined Maryhill High School in the West.
Still a single-sex school? Okay.
But my primary was in a mixed. All my primary, the two schools were mixed. But then Maryhill is a single girls' school, of course. I finished my O-level from Maryhill and joined Christ the King Senior Secondary School, that is in Rakai, Kalizo.
Okay.
Yes, and from there, in primary, I was a pencil collector. You know, such leadership roles.
You see how leadership skills like pencil collector, I can't imagine that position.
I was a pencil collector. Then in O-level, I was a school garden leader, one of those persons who would ensure that the garden that you're in charge of as a class is well catered for.
No wonder the NARO.
I didn't know that I was going to work with NARO, but that was one of the leadership roles. Then when I joined my HSC in Christ the King Senior Secondary, I was elected a head girl. So that's where my journey of being a leader starts from, a serious leader now. Because the school was quite big, with about, I think, close to 600 students. Yes, so from there I joined Makerere University for my first degree, and thereafter I started working with NARO as a volunteer. And then later I went back to do a master's in development studies from Ndeje University, and currently I'm doing another master's at Uganda Christian University in media and communication. It's such a long journey.
You love reading, right?
Yeah, I love it, as long as I'm adding on to my career.
Because sometimes
it is something.
Masters is not an easy thing. So if you can go for masters and shoot another one.
Yes, I really wanted to expand on my academic profile. I really wanted to see to it that I would be in a better position to serve both in my organization and also in the nation. So I have been able to go for all these courses. Much as I'm a mother, it has been something that was a little bit challenging, but I've so far managed, and I think I'm almost completing my master's.
Let's take a look at your leadership experience from when you were a pencil collector to the leadership you're having now.
Okay. Of course, what I can say, when you're a pencil collector, you're basically having less work. You're picking the pencils from your fellow colleagues and you're still young.
And let me ask, what would happen if someone did not give you that pencil?
Of course, I had to talk to the teacher and tell them so and so has not given me her pencil, and I would also use all means to see to it that she agrees to with what I'm requesting for, to give me the pencil.
And your friends are watching.
Yes, yes. Okay. So then when I became, when I was in O-level and I was like a school garden leader, I had to make sure that we were there in the garden in time, make sure the crops are watered, well mulched, and on and on. So I also realized that I had to be a leader who had to do extra than my colleagues that I was leading. And I think it was a good training that has really gotten me to where I am. And now getting into the position of a head girl, that was now a bigger role. And it really made me become more focused as a leader, because it was not like the pencil collecting leadership position. Being a head girl meant I had to ensure that all the students were in a particular position at a particular time. If it was about going to church, I had to ensure that the prefect in that position was making all steps to see to it that every student was in the church. So I had to oversee and supervise. Then if it was supposed that the students were supposed to be in the dining, that was another thing that I still had to ensure that everybody is in the dining without any excuses. So it was a bigger role, and at the same time I had to balance with my books. So I was a head girl, making sure that discipline, the neatness that the teachers are getting from us, what is expected of us as students, but at the same time I also had to read my books and concentrate, because being a leader also pushes you to work hard, to come out as in a particular position, and not a mediocre, but you have to be a winner. So it has been a journey, and I thank God for the grace that He has given me in those different leadership positions.
So do we see these leadership positions you had while back in primary, maybe secondary, and university? Did you get any leadership position in university?
By the way, at the university, I completely refused to go for any leadership position, much as my colleagues would say, please come for this position. I said, no, I will need to concentrate on my books. I will not be a leader. But somehow, I think it was God's plan.
And you carried it on even after university?
After university, I'm in different positions, both in the organization and then outside, because currently I'm a church administrator in Caris Word Ministries. So somehow the leadership, and I have shifted like from one church to another, but again, I'm always chosen as a church administrator. So I think there is something that is within
Just
me.
Like I said in the beginning, I really can see the belief in you. You're a true believer. You also believe in the norms of leadership comes from God.
Yes, leadership really comes from God, because leadership brings with it so many challenges, and without the grace of God, really, you cannot manage. You lead people who have different calibers, someone who is hot-tempered, someone who is not hot-tempered, someone who think this when you speak that. So you need to really be a good leader to really know how to handle these different categories of characters within personalities, because you have to encourage now the people to make sure that they perform their roles as a leader in order to achieve the vision that you may be having, whether in an organization or in any company outside. Yes.
Wow. Now, career-wise, how was it easier, or it wasn't? How was it easier for you to just leave university and you shoot into your current organization? I mean, how long have you been in the organization?
I have been in the organization for the last 18 years. 18 years, but for the first 2 years after university, my first degree, it was not easy. Of course, I had to look for the job, and it was not easy to come by. You put in applications here and there, and then somehow you are given a reply, sorry, but I didn't lose my focus. I kept on trying. I was a research assistant at some point with Stedman Group of Companies, and we were just going out there to collect information from people. These were part-time opportunities that pushed me at a particular time when I really needed some finances. And I realized that after university, it was not really easy like it is today. So many of us, so many students are coming out, but you find getting a job is not easy. So my first position in NARO was kind of a volunteer level. I was given the opportunity to volunteer as a research assistant, and my first salary, you don't need to know about it. I was getting 130,000 with my degree. But
are you for real?
Yes,
okay.
That was the first salary I got, but I was very grateful because I realized that it was a God-given opportunity. A graduate out there would think that, no, I cannot work for that kind of money.
I mean, at least you have to remind me, because we have to budget. I don't know if I'm attacking you, but we have to budget how you would budget the 130 after that.
What I can say about the 130, that was the salary. So there was rent, and then I had, we had with my husband a baby. So we had to take care of all these things, but somehow would manage. With the 130, my husband, of course, was also contributing something. And at the same time, we had field allowances.
Okay.
So those field allowances would come once in a while. It was not something that every month. So there were times when it was a dry period, but it was okay. It took the grace of God to really survive through those times on the 130 as best, because the field activities were not so many. But I kept my head high. I was really determined to offer the best in the organization that I could. And at that point, we were 5 graduates that had joined NARO by the time I joined at my station in Mukono.
Okay, that was a training.
That was not a training. It was, we were 5 volunteers, that's what I can say. Okay. So we were 5 volunteers. And maybe because of that little money, the rest of my colleagues left. They went for greener pastures in other organizations. But somehow I had this belief that this was the right place where I was. I got born again at that time, but there were so many things that were really coming up that were so challenging. And somehow, even when I felt that I needed to go out of the organization, something kept pulling me there, and I felt that I needed to stay within NARO. God was going to create for me a position there. So I worked for that 130 for 5 years. 5 years getting that money. And maybe that's why many of my colleagues gave up and left. So as a word of encouragement out there, I do call upon graduates. You feel that maybe you have this degree, you should get this amount of money. But many times you find that you cannot have this 1 million or 800 that you so much desire to have, depending on the life that you're living. But if you are really focused, you can start with a small amount that is being offered. You can start as a volunteer, and somehow when the opportunity comes in the organization, you can always go for a bigger job. You always get the first.
Exactly, that was what I was coming for, because most of the youth out there, when they just get out of school, they will opt I want 1 million, I want 1.5. And they leave out the fact that they're just from university and this is the only time they have to do their training. Maybe when you become a volunteer, then the company will have the trust in you. They'll see how hard you're working and probably they will push for you to do something better. That is something that is affecting the youth so much, because 130 really at this time, even if it were me, I wouldn't, like, being honest,
yes,
I wouldn't say, yes, I'm going to stay with the company for 130, but look where you are.
Yes, so that, it takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of hard work, and as I gained experience through those 5 years, I was able to learn so much about my organization. I was able to relate with the communities where we used to work, because we work within the central Buganda districts, and I was able to understand and appreciate the poor farmers out there, the women, the youths, all those different groups, to understand them. And by the time I was appointed as a communication officer at my station, I was really good to go. It was easy for me to cope up and to even perform and work harder. So it's really important to strive not only to focus on the money, but on the experience. The technical know-how is very important. Many of the managers are looking for that. Can you go through the thick and thin? Can you focus on having results much more than looking at the finances? Because at the end of the day, every manager wants someone who is going to be performing to their best in order to push the organization to a higher level. So it was an opportunity for me, those 5 years, to really work hard and show my bosses that I could do something for the organization. So I was later appointed as the communication officer at my station, and from 130, I really thanked God, because my first appointment, I was getting 960. So
wow, from
130, my first appointment later was, from being a volunteer now, was 960. So if I had not been patient, I would not have gotten that. And because I was now getting much better than some of my colleagues who had left, some of them I got to know they were getting 750. So with my patience and God's grace, I was able to get this bigger salary. So I started with 960, and I've gone on rising in ranks. I have seen the grace of God at work amidst all the challenges that are related to work. I have seen God helping me to go through the ladders, and yeah, I'm now promoted to senior communication officer, the only one in NARO. I do not take that for granted, but I just give the glory back to God. So yeah, that's my journey of my career.
Such an interesting journey. I mean, who would have known? Who would have known that you would have risen from 130 to 960, and perhaps you do not know how many millions she goes back home. I mean, she takes it back home in her handbag. I mean, it's, who knows? Today it could be little, and tomorrow it could be much. Sometimes the white man says, start small. When you start small, then you grow bigger. But when you think of starting big, you do not know, you're leaving out the foundation of what you are supposed to see in the near future. Beautiful life story of Mary. Now, when we're talking earlier, you talked about farming, you being a leader and in charge of the garden and something. So that really took me back, and I'm like, okay. Now, parents, that's how you really realize, I mean, the talent your daughter or your son has, or maybe that's how you start spotting the small things your children are going to do. Because, I mean, how could I be in school and be maybe a leader of a school farm? I mean, in charge of a school farm, and here we are into agriculture and research.
Yes.
Was that like an indicator? Do you one time sit down and think that was an indicator of your life? Like, yes, one day you'll be responsible, because you guys are solutions to the Ugandan agriculture?
Okay, thank you so much. What I can say about that is, I think right from childhood, my father really wanted us to participate in agricultural activities. And I remember he used to give us small gardens. I really love my father, Mr. Paul Sechewa. He really inspired us to be so hardworking. We had zero grazing animals at home. And then we also had, just in the town there, we had some bananas, but we also had vegetable gardens. Now, I didn't know that I would now have something similar at my workplace that I would be in charge of. Yeah. So he would tell you, this season, this holiday, you're going to be growing carrots. And from preparing the garden, the bed, you have to prepare the field. He tells you, make the ridges like this, then make the lines. This is how they put the seed. So it was a training at that point, and we somehow felt like it was too much or it was a punishment. You know, when you're still young, you want to go to play, but he was someone who would tell us, in the morning, someone doesn't have to play. You have to wake up as a woman, go and do something. Go in the garden, do some house chores. So you find that he really kept us busy in the garden. So I remember I one time had carrots, other times I would have maybe eggplants, like that. So it was an opportunity at such a young age to have, to indulge in agriculture. And every holiday we had to go to the garden. He had 2 acres somewhere in Senya. That is where we could now we had a bigger garden there. And he would tell us, by the time you go back to school, you have to make sure that you have grown the sweet potatoes that you will eat next term. It is funny.
Like
you have to do.
Stories tell us that the beans, the harvest of this season, are your tuition, so you have to go to the farm.
Yes, so we had to ensure that we manage the banana garden, make sure it is weed free. We prune, then we have to plant maybe the beans. We have to plant some cassava. We had to plant some sweet potato. And I remember when I completed my S4 in the vacation, I wanted to go and visit one of the relatives. And I remember he told me, no, you're not going to go there. You have to first plant some sweet potatoes. I cried and I felt so bad. But I thank God right now because I know how to do all the agricultural activities.
Well, thank you very much. Let's hold it there and go for a short commercial break. But when we return, a topic of discussion has been women entrepreneurship, and I've been your host, Asha Konsum, with my guest, Mary Nampera from NARO. Let's go for a short break. Her moment still continues.